It was about 11 o'clock. Father Ishikawa, who was Korean, aged about 36, and the hospital chaplain, was listening in on the hospital chapel to the confessions of those Catholics who had gone to him to confess, one after the other, before the great festival, on 15th of August, of the Ascension of the Virgin Mary, which was only a week away. Brother Joseph Iwanaga was toiling outside the hospital with some farm workers, digging another air raid shelter in the shrubbery in the center of the hospital yard. Mr. Noguchi, who had begun to repair the apparatus used to lift water from the well. Other members of staff were busy providing a late breakfast. Some were filling big bowls with miso soup. Others were carrying them through the corridors or up the stairs. The hospital was a hive of activity after the all clear. "Well, we'll soon be getting our breakfast," I said to Miss Murai. "The patient must be hungry." So was I, but before we had our breakfast, we would have to finish treating all the outpatients. I stuck the pneumothorax needle into the side of the chest of the patient lying on the bed. It was just after 11 a.m. I heard a low droning sound, like that of a distant airplane engine. "What's that?" I said. "The all clear has gone, hasn't it?" At the same time, the sound of the plane's engines, growing louder and louder, seemed to swoop down over the hospital. I shouted, "It's an enemy plane! Look out! Take cover!" As I said so, I pulled the needle out of the patient and threw myself beside the bed. There was a blinding white flash of light, and the next moment, bang, crack! A huge impact, like a gigantic blow, smote down upon our bodies, our heads and our hospital. I lay flat. I didn't know whether or not of my own volition. Then came down piles of debris, slamming into my back. The hospital has been hit, I thought. I grew dizzy, and my ears sang. Some minutes or so have passed before I staggered to my feet and looked around. The air was heavy with yellow smoke. White flakes of powder drifted about. It was strangely dark. Thank God, I thought. I'm not hurt. But what about the patients? As it became brighter, little by little our situation grew clearer. Miss Murai, who had been assisting me with the pneumothorax, struggled to her feet beside me. She didn't seem to have been seriously injured, though she was completely covered with white dust. "Hey, cheer up," I said. "We're not hurt, thank God." Another nurse, who was in the consulting room, and the patient, managed to stand up. The man, his face smeared white like a clown and streaked with blood, lurched towards the door, holding his bloody head with his hands and moaning. I said to myself over and over again, "Our hospital has suffered a direct hit. We've been bombed." Because the hospital stood on a hill and had walls of red brick, it must, I thought, have attracted the attention of enemy planes. I felt deeply and personally responsible for what had happened. The pervading dingy yellow silence of the room now resounded with faint cries. "Help!" The surface of the walls and ceiling had peeled away. What I had thought to be clouds of dust or smoke was whirling brick dust and plaster. Neither the pneumothorax apparatus nor the microscope on my desk were anywhere to be seen. I felt as if I were dreaming. I encouraged Miss Murai, saying, "Come on, we haven't been hurt at all. By the grace of God, we must rescue the inpatients." But privately I thought it must be all over with them. The second and third floors must have disintegrated, I thought. We went to the door of the consulting room, and there were the inpatients coming down the steps, crying, "Help me, doctor! Oh, help me, sir!" The stairs and the corridor were heaped with timbers, plaster, debris from the ceiling. It made walking difficult. The patients staggered down towards us, crying, "I'm hurt! Help me!" Strangely, none seemed to have been seriously injured, only slightly wounded, with fresh blood dripping from their faces and hand. If the bomb had actually hit the hospital, I thought they would have been far more badly injured. "What's happened to the second and third floors?" I cried. But all they answered was, "Help me, help!" One of them said, "Mr. Yamaguchi has been buried under the debris. Help him." No one knew what had happened. A huge force had been released above our heads. What it was, nobody knew. Had it been several tons of bombs? Or the suicidal destruction of a plane carrying a heavy bomb load? Dazed, I retreated into the consulting room, in which the only upright object on the rubbish-strewn floor was my desk. I went and sat on it and looked out the window at the yard and the outside world. There was not a single pane of glass in the window, not even a frame. All had been completely blown away. Out in the yard, dun-colored smoke or dust cleared little by little. I saw figures running. Then, looking to the southwest, I was stunned. The sky was as dark as pitch, covered with dense clouds of smoke. Under that blackness, over the earth, hung a yellow-brown fog. Gradually, the veiled ground became visible, and the view beyond rooted me to the spot with horror. All the buildings I could see were on fire, large ones and small ones, and those with straw-thatched roofs. Further off along the valley, Urakami Church, the largest Catholic church in the east, was ablaze. The technical school, a large 2-story wooden building, was on fire, as were many houses and the distant ordnance factory. Electricity poles were wrapped in flame like so many pieces of kindling. Trees on the nearby hills were smoking, as were the leaves of sweet potatoes in the fields. To say that everything burned is not enough. It seemed as if the earth itself emitted fire and smoke, flames that writhed up and erupted from underground. The sky was dark, the ground was scarlet, and in between hung clouds of yellowish smoke, 3 kinds of color, black, yellow, and scarlet, loomed ominously over the people who ran about like so many ants seeking to escape. What had happened? Urakami Hospital had not been bombed, I understood that much. But that ocean of fire, that sky of smoke, it seemed like the end of the world. I ran out into the garden. Patients who were only slightly hurt came up to me, pleading for aid. I shouted at them, "For heaven's sake, you're not seriously wounded." One patient said, "Kawaguchi and Matsuo are trapped in their rooms. They can't move. You must help them." I tried to myself. We must first of all rescue those seriously ill tubercular patients who've been buried under the ruins. I looked southwards again, and the sight of Nagasaki City, in a sea of flames as far as the eye could reach, made me think that such destruction could only have been caused by thousands of bombers, carpet bombing. But not a plane was to be seen or heard, although even the leaves of potatoes and carrots at my feet were scorched and smoldering. The electricity cables must have exploded underground, I thought. And then, at last, I identified the destroyer. "That's it," I cried. "It was the new bomb, the one used on Hiroshima."